Hey, Nathan, welcome back.
Thank you.
You've been traveling.
I have. I've been around a little bit.
Yes, you've been to Santa Fe.
Yep.
To look at the Santa Fe.
Yep.
You've been to L.A. to look at the Nismo Z.
Yep.
And you've been to Volvo, right?
Yeah, New York.
New York. Wow, you've been around the country.
I have. And honestly speaking, I mean, I really do enjoy traveling, but hanging out in the studio is a comfortable change.
So in this podcast, we're back to our old, shall we call it, favorites.
Ah, yeah.
The fan favorites. And that is we're going to compile two lists actually here. The top 10 automotive flops.
Yes.
And the top 6 idiotic ideas.
That is correct. Now, before you say, wait a minute, you guys have covered similar things. Yes, in terms of certain components of it, but this is a little bit different. This is a much bigger picture that we're going to cover, and I want you guys to participate. So by all means, put your comments down below on what you agree with and disagree with.
Well, actually, we're going big and we're going small. So we're going macro and micro.
Yeah.
And these are, I forgot the word recent. So we're not delving into history. We're looking at stuff that happened within the last year.
That is correct.
But before we get to that, I have a quiz for you.
Okay, fire away.
All right, here's a quiz.
All right.
For all of you who are listening to this, in my hand, I am holding an orange box with a little like stubby antenna on it.
Yeah.
It's about the size of my hand. It's got one button on it, and the button says, if you hit the button, there's a thing that says TX on it, and then there's another one that says low battery. And it says on this device that I'm holding, EL-50448. And I'm asking you what this is because this saved us, Nathan, $295.
Oh, I know exactly what that is then.
All right, what is this?
That is a Texas breathalyzer. When you go to a Texas bar, okay, yeah, exactly. You fire up way too many of them beers, you just chug it on down, and you hit the Texas button right there, and then you make sure you don't get a ticket.
No, it is not a Texas breathalyzer, even though it looks like one.
Yeah.
It's a piece of automotive technology that I'll give you a hint that applies to many recent model GM vehicles, and I will tell you how we saved $295 with this.
Did it cost $295 to buy that?
No, it cost $5 to buy that.
You're kidding.
No, $5. You can get it for either $5 or $9 on Amazon.
Oh, okay.
And the reason it saved us $295 is if we had not bought this, we would have had to take the car to the dealer, and the dealer would have charged us $300 to do what this does.
Okay.
So I'll give you the backstory. As you know, we recently purchased a 2006 Chevy C6 Corvette.
Yes.
And if you're wondering why we purchased it, because we like drag racing.
Yeah.
We kind of
and you like Corvettes. You're really getting.
I'm getting that old man Corvette.
Yeah, you are. You really are. Yeah, it's okay. They're cool.
Wait. But before you say it's okay, who else on our team has a Corvette?
Well, Case does.
Yes,
of course.
and he's not an old man.
No, he's not. Although he is. He's like a 60-year-old guy running around in a 20-year-old body.
Really? I think that's Tommy.
Tommy too. Well, Tommy's even older though.
So we first purchased the C5, which we sold to Tommy.
Yeah.
So Tommy now owns the C5, and then, like I said, we're working our way through the different generations of Corvette. And by the way, Nathan, I think the Corvette is a hell of a bargain.
I agree.
There's a friend of mine who was recently looking for a sports car to buy, and he missed out on a Lotus Evora for like $75,000. A Lotus Evora for $75,000 on Bring a Trailer. And I'm thinking to myself, for $14,000, you can get yourself a C5 Corvette that is every bit as much of a performance car, and then some, than Evora.
I like the Evora, to be honest with you, and I almost
You like it $75,000 worth?
No, I don't. $55,000 worth, I might say, would be almost worth it. But it is a Toyota V6 they stuffed in that thing. You know
exactly.
That?
Yeah. I know.
So it's kind of reliable for.
But I'm saying there's like this cool kid on the block need to have these like 911 variants and the British forbidden fruit variants.
Sure.
And yet everybody overlooks the performance car in plain sight, which will run circles around them, which is easy to fix, which is plentiful and
relatively inexpensive to fix too, by comparison.
Yeah.
With the exception of this tool.
All right. So we bought this 2006 C6 Corvette, and there were two problems with it. One, it was flashing oil change, right? When you start up, there's this little screen, and on the screen there was a little, notation that said oil change required.
Okay.
And I bought it from the owner, and he said he changed the oil, but you have to then basically go into the car and reset the oil, because it doesn't actually only way that it knows that the oil needs changing is by how many miles you've driven, right?
Right. There's a sequence, I think, that you have to go through in order to reset that system.
And there's a little reset button. It's easy.
That's even easier.
Yeah, it's easy. But it's not actually like looking at the quality of the oil. But it had another fault, and that was TPMS. And he told me that the battery on the driver's side front TPMS sensor was dead and it needed replacing. Okay, so we took it over to our local tire shop, Discount Tire, which we use. They replaced the battery, and they were going to charge us $60, which they didn't, because they couldn't reset the little code. You couldn't do it.
Okay.
So we called up the GM dealership, and they said, bring it in, and we'll reset the code, the TPMS code, for $300. And you know what you need to reset the code?
I wonder if that'll work on Ford products too.
It works on a lot of many different GM late models. So this little thing allows you to.
So how do you use it? Now, by the way, if you're listening to the podcast, Roman is holding a device that looks almost like a walkie-talkie.
Yes.
With a stubby antenna.
Yes.
But it's all orange because Roman likes red or orange. And in addition, there's one button on it. That's it. And there's nothing else, really.
Yeah, I was watching a YouTube video, and there's a sequence of things you have to do. You have to go to the car, push this button, the car knows then that you're resetting the TPMS sensor, and then you do something on the inside, which I forgot, and that's how you do it. And the dealer was going to charge us $300, and you can buy the tool. And it's not just Corvettes. It's like pretty much like, and I say late model, I mean like in a 10-year span. Any GM vehicle, this is what you need to reset your TPMS sensor.
You know what? When we're done with this broadcast, I'm going to use that on my kid's car that's outside. She has a TPMS sensor issue right now.
But that's a Ford.
I know, but maybe it'll work. That might save me $60.
I'm not sure.
Right?
I think this is GM only, but you could give it a shot.
Oh, GM TPMS and Ford TPMS, you never know. They might have the same purveyor.
But so they had this tool at Discount Tire, but apparently it's tricky and it wasn't working. So I thought for $5, it's worth
Hell
to
yeah.
roll the dice and see if we can do it ourselves.
Yeah, OEC-T5.
Yeah.
No idea. But anyway, you can go to Amazon and find one of these for super cheap, and maybe it'll save you a lot of dough.
Yeah, so that's our best top tip of the day for saving money if you're a GM car owner and you need to reset your TPMS sensors, because obviously the dealer charging $300 is barbaric.
It's ridiculous, but it's also not beyond any dealer to pull something like that. It's ridiculous.
All right, so shall we start with the flops or the idiotic ideas?
Tell you what, let's go through the flops.
Okay.
And when we're done with that, I have a little tiny rant.
Okay.
It's about a irresponsible teenager I'm related to, and things that I think other fathers and mothers have had to deal with their kids in terms of cars.
All right, so let me define what this is. These are decisions that automakers had or made that had bad consequences, or just flat out dumb ideas that need to go away.
Yeah,
Okay?
exactly.
So this is what we're talking about. So at number 10 is Audi. And I'm going to use a word, bland design language.
Oh, I got a better one.
Like the nesting dials, right? The
Yeah.
Batyushka nesting dials. I think until Tesla came along, Audi was the darling of the automotive world in terms of being like the cool kid on the block.
Kind of cutting edge.
Yeah. And then Tesla just made them look so staid and so, bland.
I would say there's other automakers I could credit with that, even Genesis for that matter. Audi, with one exception, right now, I cannot think of any of their cars that stands out to me that makes me go, ooh.
Which one? I bet you it's the same one.
Oh, it's the GT.
Yeah, exactly. The Porsche-based.
Yeah.
The
yeah,
Taycan.
it's fabulous looking.
Yeah, the Taycan.
But all their cars should
Audi.
look that good.
Yeah.
All their cars should look, there's no excuse not to. And here's the thing, and here's the term I'll use, weak sauce. We know Audi is capable. We've seen all these concepts coming out, yet these cars, we've actually recently redone the headlights. See, the headlight now strikes slightly to the left instead of to the right. As such, it is very, very different. New car. No, it's not. It's the same damn car. It's the same damn design. You guys need to up your game.
Yeah, there's going to be another one here very shortly that went the opposite direction, maybe too far in the opposite direction. But I couldn't agree with you more, Nathan. Audi has kind of lost their way with their design language. I don't know if they've lost their way. I would say that the time has passed right? They're no longer kind of in step with where the current tastes and the current vogue cool kids are.
Audis used to be beautiful, desirable cars that the cool guys got because if certain BMW and Mercedes-Benz owners struck you as little gauche. This was what you wanted. You wanted the cool stuff, and that was what Audi used to give you.
Remember the first TT?
I loved it.
Right,
looking
especially
at it.
with like that baseball stitching.
Yeah, and all the round dials
All
and
the
everything
round
else.
dials and all the little details. I mean, that was like Bauhaus design taken to cars.
Yeah.
It was just absolutely stunning. It was a breath of fresh air. The car itself, first generation TT, not a great car. A rebadged Volkswagen
we're not talking.
GTI.
This is not about quality.
Actually,
This is
Golf R.
merely about design.
Right.
And I could go on and on in terms of some of their original all-roads, how cool those were. There's so many vehicles that they built. Obviously, the R8.
Yeah, the R8, exactly.
Oh, my God.
Oh my God, yeah, with that.
And
like,
now it's just everything's.
and now, if I look at Audi, I kind of feel like the most cutting edge thing they do is they have a Q4 which has a sloped roof versus a Q5 which has less of a sportback look. I mean, come on, guys, step up your game.
We know you can do better. That's the hard part about this
Yeah.
is we know how good Audi can be. Now, speaking of being disappointed, I think some of you guys might be a little disappointed with our next one.
Yeah, all the Tesla fans are going to be not happy with this
Hey,
one.
guys, this is just the facts, okay? It's not us. This is facts.
Like I said, this is recent automotive flops, and the news has been not good for Tesla. Apparently, Nathan, Tesla has been inflating their range figures, and people have gotten upset with it, and they wanted to take their car in for servicing because they thought that there was something wrong with it.
Yeah.
And Tesla actually created a whole department to basically thwart that process because they, how you're supposed to overpromise
And underdeliver.
Yeah, they did the opposite.
Overpromise.
They
Underdeliver. They screwed up.
No. You're supposed to under-promise and
Over-deliver.
over-deliver. They over-promised and under-delivered.
Sounds right the first time, but
Yes,
they really did. And this is something, it's not just in the United States. Apparently, other people across, pretty much everybody in the world who's a Tesla person, many of them are affected as well, or can be affected.
Well, look, let's face it. The EPA method of judging range is squishy at best.
Oh,
right?
it's garbage as far as I'm concerned.
Because the way that it works is the EPA actually doesn't test cars. They have the manufacturer submit the data that they then look at and then they certify.
Yeah, and they debate whether or not it's reasonable.
And they do some limited testing, but apparently Tesla was able to kind of game that process. In other words, take advantage of the process to somehow inflate or overstate their range numbers. And we all know that electric cars have different range numbers, right? It depends on,
environmental.
Exactly, time
so
of
many
year. Is it
things.
winter? Is it summer?
Yeah.
How heavy is the thing you're,
and how the driver's actually driving the car.
Exactly. There's just so many different factors. But my experience driving our Model 3 Performance across the country was actually just the exact same thing. So I think our car is rated, if I remember right, at 320 miles of range.
Yeah.
And you probably had the same thing with the Ioniq 5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you're driving across country, and at about 150 miles of range, you start looking for a charger. Because you're down to like 10 or 15%.
That's precisely the same thing I had.
And then you're like, wait, I'm supposed to get 320 miles of range. Why am I looking for a charger at 150 miles?
Before you guys scream, wait a minute, that's highway. Highway isn't as good as city driving. We get that. But even at that, there should be, it should be much closer to the mark that they set, and it's not. And even with city driving, the marks have been off.
Yeah, because let's face it, we drive with a heavy foot, so energy usage to some extent is exponential. So there's a huge difference between going 65, going 75, and going 85.
Big difference.
Big difference, and we tend to probably drive fast, so we have a lot less range. But that doesn't change the fact that if you were in a gas-powered car, you would still be using more gas, but because gas stations are plentiful and because gas doesn't have that same kind of shiftable range estimate, you would be close to, let's say, a typical car gets 300 miles of range on a tank full.
Between 300 and 400 miles, yes.
You're going to get that, but with an electric car, like I said, at about 150, I was like, I'm supposed to have twice as much range, and this was in the summer. This wasn't in the winter. I'm like, why am I all of a sudden,
The consistency is really the issue, and so Tesla has done themselves no favors by inflating their range figures. And speaking of someone who hasn't done themselves any favors.
Okay, number 8.
Yes, General Motors did not do themselves any favors by the unceremonious way they've discontinued the Chevrolet Camaro. What a horrible end to a very interesting car.
I'm hoping it's just a temporary vacation.
Well, yeah, they'll bring it back as some sort of electric Camaro and then make it into an SUV.
God, that's the Ford way, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's everybody's way. Dodge is doing that.
Look, I was just talking to Tommy about this, and GM is in some ways fickle with these iconic brands that they have that are extremely valuable. And what I mean by that is, the Corvette almost died like 6 times, right?
Oh, yeah, it came really close to death several times.
Tommy was telling me that they spent on the C7, or maybe it was the C6. No, maybe it was the C7. They spent $190 million to develop it. But they budgeted like $900 million to develop the Cruise.
And look what happened to the Cruise.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And look at what happened to the Corvette. It's now probably America's premier, most popular car. So I say, you're playing with fire when you take these iconic brands, and sure, you have projections. Well, we expect to sell 50, 60, 70, 80,000 units a year, and the car's not hitting that mark. That doesn't mean that you kill it, because for a lot of people, that is what gets them in the showroom to buy the Cruise, right?
Right.
Or nowadays, of course, the Traverse or the Equinox or whatever other GM product, right? It represents kind of the core DNA of GM. And when you kill that, I think you're telling a lot of people that you're walking away from the things that made you great. And it disappoints people, and it translates to lost sales.
There's 2 points I want to make. One is that I did not hate the Cruise, by the way. You mentioned the Cruise.
Right.
It was a decent car. But with the Camaro, the Chevrolet Camaro should have had a similar type of exit that the Dodge Charger and Challenger had, where you had all these final models.
Well, they had one. They had the Panther.
Building up, but the real, really celebrate the car, enjoy the car. Hey, this is your last chance to have this car, and really build it up. Maybe even increase some of those sales.
Well, it's also a head scratcher, dude, because GM has already announced that they're going to stay with the small block. They're going to build another generation of that.
Yeah, but that's for trucks.
Why not stay with the sports car? And
because they made a mandate that they're trying to follow in terms of going all electric, and I get that point. However, we still have time. So I know that a lot of Ford fanboys and Dodge fanboys are laughing, haha. But I honestly feel like the Camaro could have had a much better exit, and more importantly, perhaps another couple years where it could have proven itself.
Why even exit? Why not just transition it to a hybrid, and like they're doing with the Corvette, right? The E-Ray, and then eventually, if times call for it, go all electric. But why just kill it? I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many brands. When you think about the Cruise is a great example of that. There's so many brands of cars that GM has just killed, including Pontiac, right? An entire nameplate, right? That today I think would be doing very well. I also think they did something very stupid. This is a whole different conversation by selling Vauxhall and Opel in Europe. Right?
That's a whole different conversation.
That's a whole other conversation. Yeah. But they seem to be very quick at just kind of going, okay, click, it's gone.
Management at General Motors right now is really, they have my head in a cloud. I can't figure them out. Another one is the Chevy Volt, by the way.
That was also a great
car.
car.
That was way too, they should have held off for at least another year.
If you want a great hybrid, that's probably one of the best. And
it's
it never
remarkably efficient.
Never got the praise it deserved. Luckily, they came back with the Bolt. They walked that back.
Yeah, they did walk that back. I'll give them credit on that. But the whole point here is going back to the Camaro. I think it's a huge mistake that they're getting rid of it the way they're getting rid of it.
Look, sales of sports cars are probably the lowest they've been in the last 20 years.
Right.
But Nathan, it's like everything. It will come back. So the passion that sports cars elicit, the love affair that sports cars ignite with cars in general has not gone away. So hold on to that nameplate, button down the hatches, stick around through the storm, and then be there to take advantage of the shifting styles or the shifting taste when it comes back around. But don't just get rid of it. And I know you're thinking to yourself, you could just bring it back. But I'm like,
they're going to bring it back as an SUV that's all electric. I guarantee it.
I'm like, yeah. There's a good example of where that did work, and that was a Bronco.
Or the Ford Mustang Mach-E actually has worked, even though I absolutely can't stand the first name on it.
But I would ask you, Nathan, if you use a Bronco as an example of that, how many Wranglers has Jeep sold in those years that the Bronco was gone? And it'd be millions.
Yes.
If not tens of millions.
Yeah, millions.
Yeah, if not tens.
Yeah.
So you can walk away from those sales and then bring it back, but why wouldn't you keep building it? All right. What's number 7? Oh, this is a good one.
Yeah, the number 7 is a huge mistake by a company that cannot afford to make these mistakes. Yeah, and that's the Mazda MX-30. And there's two parts to this. One is they're getting rid of it, and the other part is they never bothered bringing the REV here, which is essentially their small rotary recharge system,
extended range,
which
hybrid.
essentially is very similar to what the BMW did with the i3. They blew the whole thing. The whole thing was a complete cluster.
So the Mazda MX-30, for those of you who aren't aware, was this California compliance car that was introduced by Mazda like 10 years after California compliance cars were no longer a thing. It had right around, I want to say, 100 miles of range. So I forget the size of the battery, but it was small. It had the same doors that the i3 has, right? So it had the regular 2 doors in the front and the clamshell doors in the back.
But it looked cool.
And they sold it for like $37,000 or $36,000. It didn't charge quickly. It didn't have enough range, and it was just a complete head scratcher as to why Mazda even like bothered to bring it to America. In Europe, they had an extended range version.
Right, exactly. And the extended range version, that's a whole different enchilada, because that
you can use.
You can really use, and you can get some real range out of it and drive it every day as a daily model, and it's supposed to be just a great little car. But without the range extender, it was essentially a useless electric car that nobody bought, and it just, for Mazda, and Mazda, look, I fully acknowledge, and Zach would say the same thing, I am a fanboy of Mazda. I've owned many Mazdas. Hell, I've owned 5 Mazdas in my lifetime, 5. And they make really good cars usually. However, this was a mistake, and they are small, and they cannot afford to make these types of mistakes.
Exactly right. It's funny, Nathan. I'm a sucker for like bargains and quirky cars.
Yeah.
So I thought to myself, this car is obviously going to flop, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants a car with less than 100 miles of range that's priced in the $30,000 range.
Right.
So I'll pick one up cheap, and we'll do a fun video series like, here's why the Mazda is like the silliest car on sale or something like that, right? That was going to be the video series because that's going to get people's attention. So I started looking around in California, and then the notion immediately hit me that we're going to have to trailer it back because you can't really.
It would take us a week to basically drive it cross country.
So that already was off-putting. I'm like, oh no, God, I got to trailer it back. But then I thought to myself, and this is true, there's probably going to be a lot on dealer lots because people will buy them and then they'll quickly figure out that they can't live with them.
Or lease them.
And there were, but of course I forgot about the brashness or stupidity of dealers who were still asking like $30,000 for a 1 to 2 year old MX-30 that has 100 miles of range, and I'm like, guys, really?
Yeah, some of these, they're unscrupulous dealers. We know they exist, and
they weren't unscrupulous. They were just
being stupid.
big cojones, man.
Yeah.
Hey, you want this new Mazda that you can drive to work and home, and that's it?
Yeah, it's a grocery getter. I mean, granted, you'll have to get more juice when you get to the grocery store, but you'll be okay.
Yeah, especially in California, right? You know how traffic is.
Oh, well, California, everything is a long distance drive. So it was a huge mistake on Mazda's behalf. It was a half-baked idea, and it's not their first half-baked idea.
No, they had a number of them.
The diesel, the 4-cylinder diesel they tried to bring out here, which didn't.
Active X, remember?
Yeah, Active X didn't work out. So they've made some mistakes, and they really can't afford to do that. So hopefully they've learned from this, and they'll do better.
All right, I think number 6 is going to ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, and I don't fully agree with this.
Okay, so as you know, Nathan, there's a new off-roader in town. It's called the Ineos Grenadier, and they're also doing a truck called the Quartermaster.
Yeah, you know what? I found out that Grenadier is actually Latin for too expensive.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Boom! Yeah, got you guys.
You got us. All right.
It's way too expensive in my book, but it is a cool car.
Yeah, so in America, I don't know what they're going to do about the truck, because the truck they're going to hit the chicken tax with.
It's going to get $100,000 minimum.
Yeah, so the car is like I think it starts in the low 70s and then goes up to maybe the high 70s. Or somewhere in that range, right?
Yeah.
We've ordered one. We're not sure if we're going to get it yet, because it's all kind of in air right now. But anyway, the reason I think that vehicle exists and the reason it's actually doing really well in Europe so far, people give it a lot of. It's funny how people give it crap, right? I don't understand like how people are like fixated on where things are built. Once upon a time, like when American cars were built in America and Japanese cars were built in Japan, that it was a thing.
Yeah.
But now cars are just, because of
They're international.
They're built everywhere, and their components are built everywhere. So people, like the first comment you see when you do an Ineos video, oh, it's built in France.
So the French robot as opposed to the American
British robot.
Come on.
Yeah, come on, guys.
It's the same damn robot.
It's the same, and I got news for you. We've been to a lot of factories. They don't employ a lot of people nowadays.
No, there's a lot of it's mechanized for a good reason too, and that's why cars' quality has actually improved over the past 3 decades.
Yeah, robots don't get tired. They don't need brakes.
They don't unionize either. Ooh, that's a whole different story.
Yeah, it's a whole different story. Anyway, so cars and trucks are built all over the place, and yes, like some vehicles like the Tundra, they take pride in building them in Texas, but the new Tacoma is going to be built in Mexico. So.
And the old Tacoma was also built in Mexico, by the way, and the quality was fine. So
yeah,
whatever.
And your favorite, get this, your favorite, or a lot of people's favorite muscle car, right? The Hellcat Charger Challengers. Do you know where those are built?
In Canada.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In Canada. Yeah. The Canadians building those. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're really mellow.
All right. So let's go back to this thing. So the Grenadier came out, and basically it filled a space that I feel that Land Rover abandoned when they built the new Defender. So the old Defender was a square-jawed, basically
extremely off-road capable vehicle.
Tractor. Yeah, it was.
It was like an older Wrangler.
Yeah,
essentially.
Exactly. Yeah, and they walked away from that space by building this. And I'm not saying that it was a bad decision because they're selling a lot.
It's their best seller.
A lot of Defenders. It's a very popular vehicle, but it's not the same square-jawed, hardcore off-roader that the Defender was. It's now more of urban or suburban grocery getter that can go off-road. Now, Defender, I think owners and Land Rover will contest that, but we've had a lot of experience with it.
We've owned 3, technically.
Yeah, we've taken them off-road, and just look underneath it. That's like I said, just look underneath it, and that tells the whole story.
Now, with that being said, I say that they modernized an off-roader to the point to where it's being used in the most efficient way. Exactly, in the most efficient way. So this is a vehicle that works very well on-road. However, it's pretty damn good off-road if you get the right package and if you avoid 20-inch wheels.
But hold on, even the right package. Here's another clue.
Even the right package, I know.
Here's another clue for this, right? If we ordered ours, we ordered the most basic one, and I wanted to get the rear locking diff.
Yeah.
But you can't, on the website at the time, you couldn't click like a little thing that said rear locking diff. What you had to do was you had to get this like wacky performance package that would give you better traction on road because it had a locking diff.
Right.
So they even marketed that not as an off-road tool, but as an on-road, kind of the way Porsche does, in terms of being able to go around a corner better, so it gives you better traction. Yeah. So with the Grenadier, when we were ordering it, they were like, yeah, it comes standard with the rear locker, and do you want a front locker?
Yeah, that's exactly it. So
I mean, that tells you everything you did know.
But here's the great news about both of those. For those of you who don't know, Tommy recently did a video on this other vehicle called the Land Cruiser. And for about mid-50s, roughly, you can get a vehicle that is competitive with these other two for a lot less dough and most likely will be more reliable.
I see somebody who's a little keen on getting one of those.
I got to tell you something. The minute I saw the video, I was freaking out like a monkey on caffeine.
Do you like the...
I like the base model.
Yeah, the
base model.
The round headlight.
Yeah, with the round headlights and with the rear locker. Color me impressed. Now I have to figure out how I'm going to get a vehicle that's pretty much worth double the price of the one I currently own. But that's a whole different story.
So my suggestion to Land Rover would have been to do kind of what Stellantis does now with Ram, and that is you have a Classic, right, the 1500 Classic, and then
That's a really good idea.
Right?
They should have done.
Land Rover, the Defender Classic, and the new one.
Well, the problem with the Defender, now to be fair, it didn't meet their version of IIHS, which is NCAP, I think it is, the European crash testing, and also their emissions. There were some issues with all of that, and they're basically like, yeah, we're done. I think that they should have taken it a step forward, and I think that they, with a little bit of work, should have made a Classics version of that to build alongside their new one, and I think that it would have still been a good seller.
I think they would have 2 hits on their hands.
Right, and Ineos capitalized on that and said, well, we're going to build our own. And I don't know how you feel about having a BMW engine inside an off-roader. I mean, there's positives and negatives, but I'm guessing that it's going to be a bit of a hit here as well with the upper echelon of people.
So I think platform sharing doesn't work. Like when you have a BMW and a Supra, that basically they work jointly to develop, and you've got like BMW bits and pieces inside of a Supra that are obviously BMW. But what I do think works is if you have a vehicle like the Ineos, which is pretty much its own thing, and then you're using a BMW power plant.
Yeah,
The only thing that I don't like about it is a shifter, which is a BMW.
I don't like the shifter, and I wish they didn't. I wish they could have found a way to make it a different shifter, but that's just that's like aesthetics.
But Aston Martin does that, right, with a Mercedes power plant. There's a lot of companies who don't have the depth of engineering or the budget to develop their own powertrains.
Yes.
And so in this case, I think it works.
Well, yeah, they already know that it's compliant in terms of both the U.S. and Europe and Asia, in terms of its smog, what it produces, and the type of engine, what type of production it goes through, where to get it serviced, all that stuff. It makes total sense that they would use a BMW or any other power plant, really, from a major automaker. Actually, I'm kind of curious why they didn't go to Mercedes, but that's a whole different conversation. But speaking of BMW,
yes,
the next one on our list.
Yes,
man.
we're the other side of the coin from Audi. So Audi, if it's the cool kid on the block, and they kept the cool kid image long after they probably should have dumped it and changed it to something else. BMW has gone like full on, and you got to respect the fact that they have gone full on design in the deep end, right? And I'm talking, of course, about the new 7 Series and, of course, the BMW XM. And that is a lot. That car, I said before, and I'll say it again, I don't know how many Bulgarian gangsters there are in the world to buy these, but that car seems to be the perfect vehicle for that demographic.
And we love you Bulgarians, by the way.
We do, we do.
Yeah. How about how many guys from the Czech Republic gangsters there are?
I would say anybody that wears a giant gold chain of
there,
some sort.
Thank you. Okay. And but I'm going to say this, and I have no shame saying this whatsoever. I can't stand BMW design right now with the giant nostrils and the squinty eyes. What happened? What happened, guys, to these amazing looking cars looking so bad? Now, I could directly blame Chris Bangle, who started the whole thing back with the flamed Bangle look.
Bangle what?
The Bangle. Well, it's the whole Bangle design. The front end looked terrible too. And I know some of you guys are like, oh, no. Bangle's a genius.
That stood the test of time.
He certainly was. And so the bottom line here is that I think that ever since then, BMW every once in a while comes out with something kind of nice, but for the most part,
well, the M2, a beautiful car.
Yeah, the M2.
M2
there
works.
It is. That's a really good example.
Yeah, the M2 is kind of boxy, and it's got intersecting lines, but it all kind of works, and it ends up making the car look purposeful and fast. Whereas the XM is just the best way I can describe it. It's just a lot. It's a lot of everything.
Vile. So let me put it to you in a different way. When you have a really cool looking car and you park it in the parking lot and you're walking to the store or the restaurant or whatever, looking over your shoulder and just thinking, yeah, that's my sexy car. Some automakers still do that. Not BMW.
I think like not only you have these giant nostrils, right?
The nostrils make no sense.
But then you double down on them by actually highlighting them in different colored lights at night.
Well, especially for electric cars,
Right.
they put them on electric cars for crying out loud. Why do you need nostrils on an electric car?
So now you have like glowing purple or red or white nostrils at night.
Well, it's as if certain people over at BMW said, you know what, we want to prove that we were right and you were wrong, because everybody in automotive journalism has said some sort of snide comment about the design, and a lot of people don't like them, and their sales are not exactly going through the roof. So I think that there's some executive there who's like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to go double down on this and make it go into your face. And that's exactly what they've done.
I blame TikTok. It's a very TikTokable car, for better or for worse. It's just like screams, look at me. And the problem with that is, if you were 16, that would be a perfect car, because that could be your dream car. Except at $160,000, chances aren't there aren't that many 16-year-olds who can afford it. Right. Mostly, this car is probably aimed at people our age.
Which is saying something right there.
And we have a visceral reaction.
There's so many other cars out there.
I want to go out and buy it.
Yeah, well, there's other vehicles that are pretty to look at, and this one's not pretty to look at. So, yes, it has the BMW tech. Yes, they drive great, and they have amazing powertrains. But the bottom line is that if I look at it and I want to kind of, spit up a little bit in my mouth, there's a reason for that. And I'm not trying to be harsh on BMW. I usually love BMWs, but over the past few years, it's been so hard to love that beaver teeth design.
All right, let's move on to number 3, and we're back at design again because
Yeah.
electric vehicles have really been a disruptor in terms of design language.
Yeah.
And Mercedes has taken their design language and used a bar of soap as their inspiration.
Or melted wax. I mean, you could go either way.
And I'm not talking about their normal ICE cars. I'm talking about the EQ. Name the letter you want after
Yeah,
that.
all of the EQ, the EQE, the EQ whatever,
EQS,
all of them look very similar.
EQC,
It's really to me. It's mostly the front end design. The front end design on these. Now I know it's made to be slippery, and the whole point is to have a very low drag coefficient and find a way to still make it look like a Mercedes. I get that. However, in doing that, they've made all of their vehicles kind of look the same and kind of look bland and not very pleasing to the eye.
Yeah, and it's a shame because they're good vehicles.
Yes.
They drive well. They're incredibly quiet. If you forgo the hyper screen, they're actually usable. But the design language is so aero in a very boring way. Because I know they can do a good aero, right? They
Yes.
did that, was it the CXXX or whatever that
Yep,
one was?
yep.
That's this Coke bottle design that does like 1,000 miles. It's a prototype car or a concept car on one charge. Beautiful car, but the ones you can buy, ugh.
And we know that they have the ability to make really cool looking concept cars on the side. I mean, I got the chance to look at this other concept vehicle. It's on TFL EV, and it's this orange sports car-y thing. But the point is that we know that Mercedes can do better, and they haven't. In fact, in some ways, they're in the same realm as Audi, where they're sticking with something that's kind of safe.
Yeah.
But it's not eye-pleasing.
And
And
then-
we're not the only ones who feel that
The
way.
SUV versions of those cars are a little bit better because they're a little bit,
I don't like them either.
really, they're like a little bit like poofed out. Like you took this bad design and you made it.
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
little
It's
bit
like
bigger.
you just
Yeah.
took a pump and
And
press,
just went, yeah.
yep, blew it up. And it's a real shame because we know that the engineering underneath, like BMW, like Audi, very good engineering underneath, but externally you're really just pulling away and you're polarizing people, and I don't think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
What's so hard about making something eye-pleasing? I know you're saying, what's so hard about that? Or have you tried? Yes, I have. And I've produced beauty in my past. You know how?
How?
I have really pretty children. Yes, but more importantly, I do understand
Okay,
aesthetics. I've been in this.
I could put that on your wife, not you.
Yeah, actually, it is my wife.
Yeah, you're
pretty
a
much.
very pretty
yeah,
wife,
Yeah,
too,
yeah,
yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, it helps.
But bottom line though is that I've been in this business long enough to know a pretty car when I see one. I'm sorry, Mercedes, but in terms of your EQ series, none of them are pretty.
And it's actually where it really hits the pavement, where it really gets hard, is when you look at the AMG version.
Oh my
of
God,
those
yes.
cars. Because
you can't tell the difference.
you can't except for like different wheels
And a badge.
that actually has a piston on it for some reason, or pistons. You cannot tell the difference. So what used to be this brand that stood, I mean, think about this: AMG back in the day built wide body kits before they were purchased by, right? That's
Absolutely,
what they did.
yeah.
They took and they built, they took a standard Mercedes sedan and they built this wide body kit
Super
around it.
muscular, super macho.
And now it's like, oh, look, you got 200 spokes in that wheel, and that's how you can tell it's an AMG.
Check out the wheel and look at this badge. This is AMG, but it's blacked out letters. It's not enough, guys, and you know better.
Yeah, I don't know what meanings they decided about in this design, but they need to go back to the drawing board and like get your mojo.
Mojo, good transition, because guess who just lost their mojo?
Yeah, a lot of people are saying that. Number 3, we're going to say the Dodge prematurely killed the Charger Challenger, and I know that's a bold statement because they go all the way back to Mercedes in some ways,
Yeah,
and
they do.
the Dodge guys will tell you that old Mercedes is long gone, that they've improved it, and they're
Yeah.
probably right. But nevertheless, I still think there's a lot of demand. And once again, instead of just outright killing it and going to the muscle, I think they could have gone, and they did. Maybe they're going to do this, right? I'm almost certain, and I'm not saying this because I have any inside information. I just feel that they're going to have to do this to stay in business. And I know Tim Kuniskis pretty well, who runs, Dodge.
Yeah.
They're going to put the Hurricane. So they may come up with like an electric version of whatever the new e-muscle is, but they're going to put the Hurricane under the hood at some point. I mean, because otherwise they're not going to sell any cars. Because that's the one brand that is so heavily in the muscle car and the internal combustion engine world, and you can't just cut that. You got to transition that slowly. You got to get your people used to it, right?
I agree 100%.
It's like a cigar. You smoke cigars.
Oh, I do indeed.
You cannot start with a Cohiba.
No,
Right?
you
You're
have
gonna
to
puke.
start.
You get turn blue. You're gonna puke. You got to start slowly.
Yeah, with a blackjack or something like that you buy at
And
7-Eleven.
I know nothing about cigars, but I'm
Okay.
just guessing, right? Because I think if you gave me one of those cigars you like to smoke,
Yeah.
I would pass out and turn blue.
No, I would start with something smaller like a cigarello and work my way
But
up.
this is what
Yeah,
Dodge is doing.
So I see what you're saying. And my point with this is that they put a real end date on the car, but they haven't really shown us anything that says, hey, wait till you get your hands on this. Now, I know they showed the concept of their Daytona Challenger EV or whatever.
SRT.
That is, an extraordinarily expensive car. What about people who wanted to buy their Charger or Challenger regular, and those are by the way, the volume sellers.
Yeah.
There's nothing out there. And if you're saying Hornet, sorry, Hornet's okay for certain people, but it's not enough. I'm talking about a sedan or a coupe that is competitive and fun. Nothing is out there to replace these. We don't know of anything that's out there, at least, and neither do you. So the fact that they killed these cars and they're basically gone within the next few months.
Well, we just bought a Charger police car.
Yeah.
And people are fighting for it at the office. So it's not just the internal combustion engine. It's just such a comfortable, useful.
A good cruiser.
It's a good car, right?
Yeah.
It's comfortable for everyone. It's got a ton of room. It's got a big trunk. We got an all-wheel drive one,
Yeah.
which is incredible. We got the Hemi. I mean, it's just a really good car. It just works. And it's hard to hit upon that recipe. And so, once again, kill it at your own risk.
Yeah, I really don't know where they're hoping to move from here, but the fact is both the public and
we're fanboys.
Yeah.
We owned a Hellcat. We love Hellcats. And
Yes.
I know there's legislation and I know there's penalties. We understand how the world works.
Yeah, and actually FCA was paying almost the maximum amount in terms of penalties
They
every
were.
year.
They were. And look, Dodge has always been based on the bad boy of the auto industry.
Yes, they
So
have.
maybe in this case you ask for forgiveness instead of permission.
Well,
I don't
actually
know.
have a way to fix this. When you do your electric vehicle, go lead acid. Just put in lead acid. Yeah, make your car weigh about 9 tons.
Or people can go to their local auto parts store and replace the batteries
Yeah, be a bad
themselves.
boy. But the reality is
I need
that
22 12-volt batteries.
yeah, can I carry them out? Maybe have a little help getting them to my car. So here's where we're kind of boggled with this, and that is that we don't see a horizon here. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. Dodge, Stellantis, people, we don't see where you're going with this other than killing something that people absolutely adore. So
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Tim, like I said, has a rabbit up his sleeve.
he might have a dove up his sleeve. We don't know.
But he's got to have something up his sleeve
Yeah.
because the visceral reaction that the electric cars are getting is not
It's not
does
good.
not bode well. And
No.
we have a good sense of what's kind of trending because we live in that world.
Yeah.
And so we can tell kind of what stuff is hot and what stuff is not.
Between social media and everything that we
Yeah.
do, we have a pretty good idea of what you guys like and don't like. And obviously, electric cars are a tough sell. And in addition, electric muscle cars, that's going to be a really tough sell. In addition to that, the regular folks out there who are not going to spend $75,000 on a super muscle electric car or whatever, who want to spend $30,000 or $40,000, what's there to get? Well, there used to be these cars that you could get. They're going away. You could get a Charger or a Challenger with the Pentastar V6, and actually they were kind of fun too. Nope, gone.
Ford and the Mustang are just sitting back like,
Yeah, they really are. I mean,
they are.
They're chortling. That's the term, chortle.
Yeah, they're like, we're the last one standing.
They really are.
All right, let's keep going. Number 2, Nathan.
The one that's pictured behind us.
Yeah, this is Honda built this really great little electric car, a city car.
It's a city car. It's got a limited range.
And we know it wouldn't have sold a lot in the U.S., but the coolest thing about it was the design. So
Yep.
it's super cute. You can sell a lot of cars by being aggressive, and you can sell a lot of cars by being cute.
Damn straight.
And this is cute. I had this really cool screen where you could put a fish tank on it, which I thought was wonderful.
Yeah, like images of a fish.
Yeah, not a real fish tank, yeah. And they built it, and they sold it in Europe, where it developed a cult following. It did really, really well. They put the cameras in the rearview mirrors, which I can live without because it's expensive and kind of weird. And we got the clarity.
Bupkis. Yeah, we got the clarity.
That's right.
Oh my God, that's so useless. What the hell? So now
We got your dad's Buick.
Honda. I talked to some people at Honda, and they've been very candid about it, saying, "Look, we can't bring this car here because it doesn't have the range that the Americans are demanding. And I would agree, yes, that's a problem. However, at the time, the Mini, which has less usable space than this, had the same range.
The Mini had 124. This had 150. So it actually had more range than the Mini.
The later I think
versions,
that the first versions were about 106 miles or whatever. But the point is that for a small city car, if you could bring it in here at a discount, I know you wouldn't have had the. Here's the other thing. Same with Mini. You wouldn't get the discount on the battery.
Here's a good question. What's the best-selling Mini? What sells the most?
The Countryman, probably.
EV.
The EV is now selling the most?
Yes, the Mini
That's
EV
fascinating.
is the best-selling Mini right now. It outsells the other.
That's a good thing, though, for Mini, because they're going to be doing more electrics. They've already announced that.
But I'm just saying, hindsight's easy, but come on, Honda. You're not. You can see where we're going with this.
And it's a funny thing you mentioned that, because I think the whole electric thing will actually save the number one on our list, but I don't want to go there quite yet.
All right.
I wanted to mention a couple things about this Honda. Now, for those of you who don't know, this is actually, even though it looks like a two-door from this image, it's actually a four-door. And there is space in the back for real people, unlike the Mini. And you could convert the back into a flat surface and hold quite a bit.
I want one so bad. I want
they
one
look
so
cool, and I've talked to people who've driven them. They handle relatively well as well. You know, the range is really the biggest, and they charge fairly slow. Those are two issues. But regardless, Honda has not been in the electric game in the United States. Yes, they're about to bring out the Prologue. And they've got other ones that are going to be built in, working with General Motors.
The new ZDX is coming out.
Which is basically the Prologue on steroids, I think.
The Acura. Yeah.
But the bottom line is that this car could have been here 3 or 4 years ago. It would have been so cool, and I think you guys would have seen some decent sales, even with an uptick in price.
Here's a little thing that I have been thinking about a lot, which is bumming me out, Nathan.
Yeah.
Every country has their own electric standard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So even Europe, like this car, has the different CCS.
It's different than ours. Yes.
Yeah. Which means that 25 years from now, I will not be able to import that car because it will not be capable of charging.
There'll be an adapter or something by then. Just like this orange thing, you'll be able to buy them for $5 on eBay. Don't worry about it.
Well, I don't know, because like Japan uses CHAdeMO and China
that's
has
going
their
away.
own standard.
That's going away. Yeah.
I don't know if you'll be able to import these old, or the cost of importing will be half the cost of converting them to our, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sure there will be a way.
Well, gasoline's gasoline, right? So you can pour it in China, you can pour it in Japan, you can pour it in Europe, it's the same. But with the electrical standards and now batteries, I don't know if 25 years from now I'll be able to get one of these. I don't know if I'll be around 25 years from now, I guess. That's a bigger question.
You will be able to do it. You'll be around 25 years. You're too grumpy to die.
Will I be actually driving?
You won't be driving. No, your grandchildren are going to be driving you around. I am looking forward to the day.
Actually, I might be driving.
25 years?
Yeah, sure. My stepdad is 91. He's still driving.
Okay, fair enough.
And I won't be 91, by the way. That's
25 years? No.
Yeah, no. All right, okay. Number one.
Number one, and this is actually going back to this electric thing, but in a minute. And here it is. 4 letters. F-I-A-T. Fiat.
Yeah.
Wow. What a tremendous flop. And everything they could have done right, they did wrong. Everything up until this very point that we're talking at right now. They have one car that they're selling in the United States right now. Guys, what?
What was the plan, Sergio? And Sergio isn't with us anymore, but there had to be a master plan, right? It couldn't just be, or maybe there wasn't a master plan. Maybe the Fiat family that was so entrenched in the FCA at that time, company, just demanded or thought that bringing the brand to America would be a good idea. But they didn't have what was a long-term plan? Okay, so you start with the 500, right? Which was
a decent little car. It was okay. Yeah. It was, especially the Abarth. Oh, what a fun car.
Yeah, and then for some reason you bring probably one of the worst cars ever.
Oh, the L.
The L. My God. Right, the L. And then you take a rebranded Renegade.
Yeah, the X.
Yeah, and then you take a chassis sharing Fiata.
Yeah,
that can't be the roadmap, right?
I just don't understand.
There wasn't somebody there who was saying, "Okay, we'll bring."
Who the hell was running it back then? I mean, it's here's an important point. Okay, so up to right now, Fiat is selling one car, and that's their X.
And the dealers love it.
God. But here is the good news for Fiat is that they are bringing an electric 500e to the United States.
Yes.
And I feel
that they'll make a whole brand by one car.
No, I think that they need about 3 different cars that are all battery, and more importantly, those vehicles need to be the least expensive in their class.
One word: Panda.
Yes.
Why don't you bring the Panda over?
Well, they're discontinuing the Panda. Did you hear that?
No, they're discontinuing the all-wheel drive. They're only going front-wheel drive.
So bring the Panda here to the United States, but make it electric because everybody's going electric, whether we like it or not, and make the Fiat brand the discount electric brand for everybody. So that way, hey,
Great idea. Great idea.
I think so.
Yeah.
And you'll take a loss the first couple of years. You're already taking a loss. Stellantis is only giving you guys X amount of years to turn profit.
You know, that's a good idea, right? Europe is being flooded by cheap Chinese cars.
Yes.
And that wave is going to come onto our shores.
It already has started with the Volvo.
Yes, to some extent, and with VinFast, which isn't Chinese, I know, it's Vietnamese.
It's Vietnamese.
But I'm saying that wave will come here, and in order for that to work in America, big country, a lot of geography. You need dealers for the most part, unless you want to go fight that fight. Fiat has that. They've got the dealership network.
Yes.
They could be the first to actually have an affordable electric brand in America, and I think you're right on the money, Nathan. That would be such a
sub
smart
$30,000 cars that have half decent range for their size. Make them inexpensive, put a decent warranty on them.
Make them cute, make them lovable.
Which you can do. And actually, I did like the design of the new Fiat 500e. It looks cool.
Yeah,
and
keep them small. You could sell city cars. You don't have to go after GM and the Tahoe and the Suburban. No,
although you could make a little tiny mini tiny pickup and be the first to do a little tiny, fun little pickup thing too. The point, and by the way, Fiat has built those as well. So I think that they really should do something like that to save their bacon, because otherwise selling one car, sorry, not working. Not working.
All right, you said you had a little bit of a rant.
Yes, I did.
What's your rant?
For those of you out there who have children who are driving or will be driving, I have a warning for you, and I do not mind if my daughter is listening to this podcast, and she's not. And that is, I tried to teach her a lesson. I wanted her to learn how to register her vehicle on her own, license it, smog it, and take care of it. And she's had the car now for about 4 months. 3 months.
And it's a Honda. No, it's not. It's a Ford Escape.
It's a Ford Escape. It's a 2011. Cute little thing. Had a decent amount of mileage on it.
It's a square one, the good one.
Yeah, it actually is the good one. It's the one with the Duratec V6. Duratec, I think it is. Really good little car. So I had to pick it up and drive it because I have to take it to smog, which I just had done, and I'm going to have to take it to registration. Why? Because the kid is working and going to summer camp and traveling. Okay, so I failed on that front. My fault as a parent. You know what happened as I was driving it? I turned on the windshield wipers, nearly scratched up the front windscreen because the windshield wiper was so battered and torn up.
Here in Colorado, if you can manage a year out of a windshield wiper,
then you're doing well.
Because the sun is so intense because we're a mile above sea
level. And then we have snow and all this other crap.
And it just eats up windshield wipers.
It does indeed. And I'm looking at this going, I know she's used her squirter a few times because I've had to refill the tank. What the hell is this?
Yeah, and it's been raining here a lot.
So she has been just driving with this crap windshield wiper. When I called and asked her as I was coming here today, she said, "Oh, I didn't notice." How could you not notice? There's a piece that's hanging off the damn thing as you're going back and forth. So my point and the end of the rant is I am now penalizing her for her mistake. I'm making her pay. I was going to pay for the registration. I was just going to have her take care of it. Now she's paying for the registration.
Well, I know I don't have a daughter, so this sounds easy. I'm sure it's not because they have a way of like wrapping their dads.
Yes, they normally do, but I'm furious.
But if she can't get it smog, she can't drive. She can't go to work. I mean, I'd be like,
I should just let her get a ticket and have the thing towed.
I'd be like, I wouldn't let her a ticket. I'd be like, honey, if you don't go get it smogged, then you're not going to be able to drive it. Then you can't go to camp. You can't make money. It's on you. Instead of taking it to the Starbucks to hang out with your friends, you might want to take it to get smogged. It's on you. Whatever you want to do, you do. But at some point, I'm not driving you to your job. Yeah, that's adulting.
That is adulting, and I should have gone there, but rather
I know it's hard with kids. I know
it's not easy.
It's not easy.
This is my compromise: is that I was going to pay for the getting it registered, and as a vehicle that was recently bought, it's more expensive. So she's going to have to pay a couple $100. It's out of her pocket. Sorry, I was going to do it for you, but it's not. That's not the issue. The issue is really, how do you parent with kids who you've told, you've taught, you've shown, and yet they don't do it? Do you go Roman's route and do you take the car away, which I'm beginning to think may have been a better idea?
I wouldn't take the car away.
Well,
I let the car take itself away.
Yeah, I know. Once it's put into impound, it's going to be really expensive to take out. But or do you do what I did, which is like penalize her a little bit. You know, it's a curious thing. I'm still really angry about this whole thing because it's a safety issue with having crap wipers.
Oh, I don't know, Nathan. I try not to judge people because I found that that's a really stupid way of like, missing a lot of great opportunities.
I judge people all the time.
But there are things that like I scratch my head about. So people who throw all their crap into the back of their car, like you look in their car and it's just covered in old cans,
trash.
trash.
Yeah, I can't stand that.
I just can't stand that. I'm like, come on, this thing is. In my world, this thing is very precious and it deserves to be taken care of. And when you treat it as a garbage can,
I think
that's a hard one for me to get past.
I think a car is a good example of what the person is. If you actually get picked up, let's say you go on a date, and the car is kind of musky and nasty and everything else, you pretty much can assume that the person may not really care too much about certain things.
It's a good indication that after the intensity of that initial relationship is worn off, there may be some bugaboos that may be some drive
issues.
You bat. You know what?
So I'm am I overreacting? Am I underreacting? I'm curious to your take on it. It's just, it really ticks me off being a car guy, just in general. And she's the daughter of a car guy. The fact that she's got crap wipers on this car that she hasn't been taking care of really, really gets me angry.
The other one that really I can't stand is people who never like wash their cars on the outside. You know when you get this like built-on grime that has taken years.
It's a film. Yeah,
it's taken years to like get to that point. When I see a car like that, my heart hurts.
Yeah, especially if it's a cool car.
Yeah, any car. It just feels like it's an abusive relationship.
I actually feel bad for cars.
The abusee is a car.
When I see a car that's been tattered because someone just didn't care about it, I sometimes look at it and just like, if I owned you, I'd take good care of you. It's almost like it's like an emotional thing, right?
Yeah, here's the other thing. So, we buy a lot of cars. We sell a lot of cars. Probably too many to some extent. But like when I go buy a car, you know what I use to judge whether I want to buy that car? Even more so than the car itself, the owner. I have this rule: if I like the owner, and I like you pull up to their house and their garage is in order and everything is like in its place,
sure,
right? Then immediately I'm like, okay, I'm going to take this seriously because it says to me that this person is probably, because the worst thing you can get when you buy a used car is deferred maintenance.
Yeah.
Right? Deferred maintenance is basically the person drove it and they didn't change the brakes, they didn't change the oil, and you're going to have to pay for that.
In addition, it affects other things down the line.
Everything.
So that car just could be hosed.
Right. And if they're the kind of person where, they don't care about like the garage, I also think they probably don't care about the car.
I think that's a really good point. And it does matter. So, if someone has all the receipts,
yes,
and kept those things in order, and the car itself looks like
they're anal about stuff. I love when they say I'm anal about, and I'm like, I love that.
Provided how they use the term.
Yeah,
of course.
It's true that
is really important. But the point is that that makes it a big thing. You know what? When I am online, and I'm always online looking at used cars just for the hell of it, right? And when I see somebody take a picture of their car or their motorhome or their boat or whatever, and it's loaded with their crap, I'm like, wait, you couldn't be bothered to take that out of the vehicle to show me it? I don't want to buy that vehicle.
No, it looks
I am not interested in someone who can't spend the time to make the car look good, at least in the picture. So that's another issue, but that goes to a whole different direction.
All right, let's finish up this list.
Yes,
We're running
indeed.
out of time.
We are indeed. So
we've got the top 6
idiotic ideas.
So let's start with number 6. What is that, number 6?
Piano black plastic everywhere.
Oh, God, yeah. Oh, my God, yeah.
I can't stand that either.
Fingerprints, dust.
And I have that on my car, too, by the way.
The manufacturers do it because they think it looks classy and it's cheap.
It looks great on photographs, but what happens is after a very short...
It's new.
Or brand new.
Right.
But within just a few weeks, you can have fingerprints everywhere and dust accumulates. I keep a rag in my car. I have a Santa Cruz. And it's not a ton, but I have enough black plastic that's shiny to where it's just like, I can't stand the way this looks. And I just wipe it. And honestly, people who have more of that, I don't know how you guys can deal with that without feeling like, I need to take a rag every 3 minutes and fix this thing.
It just looks, it's one of those things that looks great when it's new and then quickly turns into a maintenance or a wiping or nightmare, right? It's the same thing with fingerprints on screens.
Yeah,
right?
I can't stand that either. There are so many better designs out there where they actually have gotten rid of a lot of that, and I love it.
All right, another idiotic idea is crystal shifters, e.g. the Volvo, the BMW, Genesis. I find them very pretentious. I feel like you should not be shifting with something that should be glassware, but there are people who like them. There's some
Yep.
people in this office who like them who think they're kind
One in particular, I like the Volvo setup. I like because it's a flipper. It's just one piece, but I don't like the ones that look almost like ashtrays. I think that whatchamacallit, Genesis has that, where it's a dial that comes up and it's all kind of a glassy thing. I don't know. If I'm in a car, I want something that feels like metal or rubber or something that
I agree.
has a tactile feel to it that feels car-ish as opposed to something that feels like it's glass.
Yeah, it feels like old and like previous generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. To me, cars are modern and forward leaning. This like leans the wrong way in the wrong direction.
You know how you can't go wrong? Just make it aluminum. Just forget the glass and make everything aluminum. Aluminum feels really good to the touch, and you're done. And put a little bit of texture on it. And please don't ever use carbon fiber. The crystal shifters in general are kind of eh. It's aesthetics too.
All right, number 4. I'm going to go with this is the most idiotic idea of all time.
I can't believe
this
they
should be
did
number
this.
1. But anytime a car, Toyota does this, Porsche does this, makes you log in. I do not want to log into my car. Let me repeat that. I do not want to log into my car. I
Guys,
just want to drive it.
Get rid of that tech, please.
Immediately.
Yeah.
There's no benefit except for making me very, very angry.
Yeah, now I know that some of you are going to say, "Oh, wait a minute! All you have to do is just when you get into the car, it'll know who you are with having the passcode."
Because then your seat will be
your
specified and the temperature and the radio. I don't. Let me do
It's
that.
unnecessary. They have pre-programmed settings where you can, with many cars, you have 3 different choices. The button's usually on the door or
Works
on
great.
the seat. You hit the button, the seat goes to where it's supposed to go. And then in some of the more modern cars, all your presets are set up too. That's all you need. Having the screen and all the other stuff make you log in is absolutely ridiculous.
And you know why I get angry, Nathan?
Because you're old?
No, because I don't want some big brother, some hacker, like figuring out that I'm going here and there and driving this to there and spending time here. There's already way too much invasion of privacy, and to me, this is by far the most insidious invasion of privacy.
In terms of cars, yes.
Because you can just see, if you're being generous, like the marketers, coming up with great ideas that would drive you crazy. Hey, I noticed you spend a lot of time at TJ Maxx. Here's a coupon for you that shows up on your phone. You know how that is.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Right. That's being generous. If not, there can be a lot of nefarious ways you could use that. To me, the car is my second home. It is the bastion of privacy. It's where I get in and I can be with my own thoughts. I do not want to let anybody know that I am in that car or I'm driving it, so knock it off immediately.
Yeah.
Plus, it's a pain in the ass.
Yes, it is. And in addition, I don't want Toyota or any other automaker, BMW, to say, by the way, this month we're charging for air conditioning. If you would like your air conditioner to work, please log in.
Well, they're going to sell that information. They're going to sell.
Oh God, it's going to go. It's going to go somewhere, or it's hacked.
Yeah, it's hacked. It's either sold or hacked.
Why make it so accessible? It's bad enough that we have these phones. I mean, yes, granted, the phones do everything there, but I'd rather have the vehicle have an isolation barrier, so to speak, and I do not want to log in every time I get into a car.
So the smartest thing I heard somebody say, we've got this world now where automakers are charging for things that once upon a time were free.
Yes.
Heated seats would be a good example.
Yeah, it's a really good example.
There's only one thing that actually works, and that is if you actually provide some real value, then maybe people will be willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
But if you don't provide any real value, then all you're doing is kind of in a I would say deceitful, deceptive way.
Yeah, nickel and diming them.
Not even that, coming out with hey, this is good for you, but in the background you're like, by the way, when people log in, we're going to be able to sell that data for $5 million each month, right? And I know that. We understand that. We understand you're not doing this for our own good. You're not providing any value.
No, it's profit.
Right? It's all just more money and, at the cost of our own privacy. So with the phone, I know the phone does a lot of that as well.
Yep.
But the value proposition there is worthwhile. Mm-hmm. In the car, it's not worthwhile.
No,
you're not adding anything that I already don't have.
You've just become intrusive in an area that you didn't need to become intrusive in, and you're still making stupid money on these cars. So the next one, is Volkswagen's dual window switches.
That was about as idiotic as you
what
could
a
get.
head scratcher. So real quickly, Volkswagen has admitted that some of their switches are not a great idea, and they've gone back. For instance, their steering wheel control buttons are now returning.
So
However,
they only have 2 switches for the windows.
yeah, that was where I was going with this.
Instead of 4, right? So imagine here, you're driving on, let's say, the New Jersey Turnpike, and if they still do this there, you have to like pay to go across the toll bridge, and you pull up, and there's 3 zillion cars behind you, and you go to open your window so you can throw money into that little basket, right?
Yeah.
Or whatever. If you don't want to use that analogy, you're going to the local drive-through, and instead of opening up the front windows, you open up the rear windows because you forget that you had a toggle to the rear windows.
Right. So
how embarrassing.
There's a toggle switch that does either front windows or rear windows, and then you can just trigger left or right. And why is this even necessary? How is this helping? How is this helping individuals?
It's like they ran out of switches.
Exactly. Why do we need this? We've had for years and years and years individual switches which you could feel without looking and say, oh, I want to lower the right rear window. Boom, I hit the button and make it happen. How is this thing helping?
Imagine, remember when we had crank windows, right?
Oh, yeah.
Imagine the analogy for that. So you have a crank window, but there's a lever.
So you actually have to pull the lever to actuate the thing to make it work.
The rear window,
Yeah.
and then you push the lever to open
the front window. It makes no sense, guys. And they're not the only culprit. Volvo recently did it. I saw it in their EX30 when I went to New York and went around the car. And as great as the car is, and I do think it's a cool car, this window switch thing is completely unnecessary. And I think that people are really going to revolt against it.
Why would you copy I mean, I understand.
It's a terrible idea to copy.
They do it, but with getting rid of the volume now, everybody copied it because they all go to coffee together. I don't know why. At some point, you got to put your finger in the air and read comments and see go to TikTok or go wherever social media is, which is everywhere, and see what people are saying about it, and then be like, hey, Sven.
Hey, Hans.
Yeah, Sven, Hans. I'm thinking about getting rid of the rear switches for the windows. It's going to save us 30 cents a car.
Ooh, that's a wonderful idea. And aesthetically, it'll be beautiful. It'll go with my other aesthetics.
But I've noticed that people hate it.
But they don't know design. We know design. Pass me another herring, too. Come on. Oh, and Venus, depending on who you're talking about.
Who you're talking about. Yeah,
oh, yeah. I like to make fun of them because I think it's a terrible idea. Guys, 4 buttons for 4 windows. Make it simple, please.
All right. Number 2.
The
Maverick.
This is
now the Maverick, as you know, Nathan, is based on the Escape hybrid.
Yes, it is.
And if you live in places like Colorado, where we live, or any place that has snow or winter, much of the country, New York, Chicago, I'm thinking of, right?
Yeah.
Big metropolitan areas, you can get an Escape that is a hybrid and all-wheel drive.
You can indeed.
Which is good because you probably want it and you need it.
Right. But unfortunately, the hybrid version of the Maverick is not offered with an all-wheel drive option. Now, yes, you can get a Maverick with all-wheel drive, but that's the 2-liter turbo. Which I think is a 2-liter turbo.
Yeah, whatever.
And it's a turbo, and it's a 4-cylinder. And yeah, you can get that with all-wheel drive, and that's a good system. But we're not talking about that. I'm talking about the hybrid. For some reason,
it gets
Ford,
46 miles per gallon.
Yeah, but for some reason, Ford did not want to put an electric motor powering the rear wheels when you get stuck in snow, which is the reason why, by the way, I did not buy that vehicle, because I would have bought it had it had a hybrid option.
Even though it's based on a vehicle that has that.
Yeah.
So it's not like they can't manufacture it or haven't manufactured it or don't have. And I think Toyota did that for a while as well, and then they got smart. Remember, you could only get the Prius in 2-wheel drive, and same thing with the Corolla.
Yep.
Same thing with the Camry, and now, of course, all those are available in all-wheel drive because they like to sell cars, Ford.
Yes, exactly. Now, I know that Ford cannot build enough Mavericks, but and then I've also heard from some of you, actually, that they are indeed building one for the next year or two. They'll have an all-wheel drive version of it, but I don't see it yet. And bottom line, it's a shame that they don't build that because they missed an opportunity. And I think that maybe Hyundai will jump on this and have an all-wheel drive hybrid version come out to sort of eat Ford's lunch or have Ford eat their lunch. I still understand that thing altogether. But anyway, the point is that they could do that, and Ford is missing that opportunity. Number 1.
Yeah, we were just there. You were at
I was indeed.
At the Nismo Z unveiling.
Which was an awesome, horrible event at the same time. This was an event for Nissan Z fans, and they brought in a few other people to try to shoot around them. It was impossible. But here's the good news. The Nismo Z, more power, more torque, but no manual transmission.
Yeah. The most enthusiast-focused, the most track-worthy, the most engaging doesn't have a manual, and I'm sure it has to do with they don't have a manual that can handle the horsepower,
Maybe.
or it would cost more. But once again, whatever excuse or reason that you have, it is a huge head scratcher, because if you're going to come out with that vehicle, you need to come out with that vehicle
It's
with a
got
manual, because the regular car has a manual.
Right. You performance one you can get with a manual, all the way up to that point. But then when you get to Nismo, and granted, the automatic transmission they have in there has been updated significantly, so it works better, faster shifting, and all that other stuff. That's great, and I'm sure it's probably a faster car with the automatic than the manual. However, people who buy Zs, I believe a lot of them are all about the feel of the car and an enjoyment of the drive. And
I think Toyota with the GR Corolla got that right.
well, they got it right with the Corolla, and they were willing to admit their mistake, and they brought in a manual transmission for the Supra. And I give them a lot of credit to
Toyota for bringing in a
Thank
manuals.
you very
Yeah.
much. I can't speak English anymore. So, yeah, Nissan missed an opportunity with that. Hopefully, they'll see the error of their ways, and they'll figure out a way of bringing in a manual Nismo as well.
Yeah, maybe they'll do that. Hey, since we're kind of in a we'll call it grumpy mood,
Yeah.
let's just do a quick few more grumpy kind of inside baseball things here. And at this point, if you're not in the automotive biz, you may want to tune out. There's other great podcasts that I could recommend. Our friend Sam over at Guidehouse Insights does a great one with Nicole and Robbie called Wheel Bearings that I enjoy.
Yeah.
I like Seen Through Glass. I'm just trying to think some of the ones that I enjoy listening to. Spike's Car Radio, that's a really Porsche-centric one. So you may want to head on over there, because this is going to be me talking to the PR teams.
Yeah, Sexy Time by Bernice, by the way. Oh, wait a minute.
No, that's
Wrong
not a car.
Okay, sorry.
So we've recently noticed, Nathan, that PR teams have decided. So for a long time, we've been doing this since 2009. We fought the good fight, and by that I mean trying to get manufacturers to allow us to bring videographers on these events.
Yeah, the bottom line is that it's just a better video when we have a videographer.
Because this talent set that you need to be able to shoot a video, be able to present a video, be able to edit a video is very unique. And there are a few people in the industry who can do all this, right?
Yeah.
There's like Sophion can do it, Alex from Sophion's Redline Reviews. And I can name more, but there are a few people who can do it. But for the most
But
part,
they still have videographers too.
they do, yeah. For the most part, like a print reporter or a digital reporter and their computer are inseparable. When you separate the videographer from the presenter, you are basically separating the computer from the digital reporter. And that's the best analogy I can draw. And it makes it very hard, if not impossible, to do our job.
Yeah.
And it's confounding. And I started out in print. I used to write a column. I love writing stuff. You did as well.
Yes, I did.
But it's confounding because over the last 10 years, video is just dwarfing other media in terms of its importance, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. It's all going to video.
Right.
And yet the most important tool we need to do our job, you're not letting us bring. So what they're thinking is, instead of bringing two people from outlet, we can bring one person from two outlets. And I would say to you that those two people from those two outlets will not have the reach by any means that like TFL will, or any of the video people.
Especially Evergreen over the long run, because you can do a quick video having somebody running in a bunch of selfies and running around a car or whatever. That's one thing. And at first, yeah, you might get some hits, but our stuff is produced, and we have editors, and we actually make this stuff work and look good.
And we have an audience. We're not like digital media where, they're mainly print-based. And what I mean by print is like they have a website. We have websites too, right?
Yeah.
But we actually have YouTube channels and TikTok channels, and now the podcast with tens of millions of people listening to us.
Yes, either viewing or listening to us every month.
So why would you not allow us to bring the tool? And then now that we're there, I'll go one step further for all you PR people. I'm just trying to give you. Hopefully, you'll take it as helpful criticism and not Roman whining and whinging about the job. Which
I'm actually agreeing with you on this one. That's for damn sure.
So, and when you get to the event, print people, digital media people, right, can use manufacturer pictures.
They sure can.
So they write up the story, and then they take these beautiful pictures that you've taken. For us, we have to use the vehicle that's there. Sure, we could probably use the manufacturer pictures, but in our world, that's not going to get anywhere, because if any other outlet can do that, what's the point of actually going on the program? At that point,
Right.
we might as well just use your video and stay at the office and not have to deal with all the fun that is now travel.
Right. We have talented videographers who actually can go around and get unique angles, and we have a certain recipe that we use in order to make these
Exactly
videos and make them as enjoyable as possible for the viewer. And the bottom line is that you're shooting yourself in the foot by not letting us use our tools.
Well, more than that, Nathan, if you do allow us to go there and you do allow us to bring a videographer, we need the vehicle in a place that is quiet.
Yeah, it doesn't have music in the background, which is trademarked and we're not allowed to use.
Doesn't have giant fans. Doesn't have lighting that looks like, we're inside of a dark tunnel.
Yes.
I mean, it's not brain surgery. Please make it quiet, make it lit well, right? And pick a color. Guys, pick a color that pops. I can't stress how badly black cars or gray cars or white cars photograph. They're just boring.
Do you want to show the lines of the car? Think about that. And then think about all the other options that are out there in terms of what you can use to make your car look decent. Maybe not have it blend into the background. I don't know. Maybe that would help.
And then here's the one that really confounds me. Okay, this is the one that is just a total head scratcher for my mind.
Yeah.
So you have now spent, as a manufacturer, I'm going to say tens, hundreds of millions to develop this car.
Yep.
And you have not scrimped. You have not saved money on anything. You have given the best people, the best tools. Right. You have spent just beyond money to make this car just right. And now you're having this coming out party. Right? And the coming out party, you say to the people who have the most views, and I know some of the digital people might, well, that's not true, but it is true. Really,
it is.
Look
really
at the numbers, guys.
Yeah,
it is.
That's how it works.
It is true. We just did the Land Cruiser. Tommy got 500,000 views on his video.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's no digital
in a very
publication.
short amount of time, too.
Okay. Well, there is one. Radio guys, they get like radio guys. Like I have a radio show and 3 zillion people listen to it. We know that. Okay.
450 million people listen to my broadcast.
Sure they do. Sure. But there's nobody that's getting 500,000 views or 1 million views, reads on their story. They're not even close to that. We dwarf that. Okay.
Yeah.
So you've put all this money into developing the car. It's an iconic car that's out there, right?
Right.
And now, we work very hard to make it, because this is a coming out party, so we understand that. We're not going to criticize the car. We'll save that for the first drive, right? This is really
we're giving the details to our audience
who wants to just see it, right? We're not
Yeah.
going to be like, hey, this thing has, because that's not what we do with these. These are first, our hands first on, right?
Right.
So we do this, and unlike digital media, right, or what used to be print, right, we have massive files. I mean, if we do it in 4K, these are massive. We're talking like 20 megabytes, right? Just massive files. We're not taking a picture with our phone and then uploading it to a server, right? Think about this. At 30 frames per second, right, one of our seconds is 30 pictures. 30 digital pictures for 1 second of our video, and like Tommy's video is 25 minutes. I can't express to you how big that file is. And then we get there, and we have little or no internet. Why? How could you not be? How could that not be the most important thing you think about? It's like running a marathon. A marathon, as you know, is 26.2 miles. I love this analogy.
Yeah.
It's like you run 26 miles, you've done all the work, it's been grueling, and at 26 miles you say, you know what, the finish line, forget it. I won't upload that video. I'll just keep it, on my hard drive.
So I could upload it 3 days later.
Yeah, or not upload it.
Or not upload it at all.
I mean, come on, guys. Little Wi-Fi, those little things that are basically like Wi-Fi enabled boxes that use LTE, right? They use those are not going to get a 4K 25-minute video. Okay, they are. So if that was
take a while.
If that was a dedicated phone, if basically you're using your phone. So if we tried to upload that using that, it would probably take 2 weeks. If we could stay connected for that long.
Yeah,
right?
if it would stay connected and not
and if
actually
nobody
kick us
else was
off.
using it.
Right.
But instead of, now you've got hundreds of people that are all trying to upload, and there's no upload. It's mind baffling, like the stuff that we have to work around to be able to get our video on the internet.
So the point we're getting at here, and this is, obviously you viewers and listeners are hearing us complaining.
I know, I'm whinging a lot, and I apologize. I'm done whinging.
Yeah.
I've done my.
But
I'm getting off
there's
my
a point
soapbox.
to this, and that is, we strive to make the best videos we can with the resources we have at hand. And in order for us to provide the best videos we can to our audience, we need automakers to play ball, frankly. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. And in many cases, it's a popularity contest of, well, I really like this one guy because he has really good hair, so let him go first. Fine, whatever. You want to do that? Great. That's the game you're going to play. Bottom line, though, if you guys really want good content getting out there to the viewers, you need to give us a little. And that means a little bit of time with the car in a quiet environment where we have internet and where we can bring a videographer and film the very best video we can film.
Yeah, and if you feel the frustration in my voice, it's because I can't tell you how much time we have spent walking around trying to find a Starbucks that has internet.
Jeez.
Or how about this? How about driving around from hotel to hotel trying to get Wi-Fi that isn't locked down so that we can upload a video, because the video that is at the event or at the hotel is the internet that's is unusable.
Yep.
And then to put your heart and soul and all that work into this thing you're doing, and at this point we're partners in this, right? We are your partner in this to get the vehicle out
You're
there.
getting essentially a very cheap commercial out of us.
Yes, you're getting over 1 million subscribers that are going to see this thing. And yet, I have to be like nefariously. I've done this. We've done this, both of us, right?
Oh, man.
Sitting in some other hotel parking lot,
Trying not to be obvious about the fact that we're using our computer. Okay.
Yeah.
No manager.
And there's no Wi-Fi that we can bring with us, unless maybe Starlink. So maybe we need to start bringing like those Starlink.
But even
things
those
on the
don't
plane.
work very. Yeah, even that.
Those are like 10 gig up, 10 meg up. Sorry. Yeah, even those aren't going to provide it. But there's no way we could solve that.
Guys, the future is here. And the future is
video.
Is video and the internet. I'm sorry, but print is mostly dead. You don't want to hear that, but that's the truth. How many magazines are still out there actually floating around? Not many.
And how many people are actually buying magazines?
Come on, it's dropped through the toilet because you can get all this free stuff on the internet and it still gives you the same information. More importantly, people want to watch videos and they want to hear podcasts. They don't want to work on actually reading. It's hard on the eyes. I get it. But the videos that we're trying to produce, the videos that our competitors are trying to produce, would work a lot better if you guys actually took a minute and actually thought about that. And maybe, I don't know, think about it this way. Hey, I can get a lot of eyeballs on this vehicle by working with these people as opposed to working against them. Just think about it that way.
Yeah, and then, often the solution is, well, we've got a videographer on site.
No.
When I see that in the email, I just dread it because that person is not. First of all, we have a way of doing things. We have a workflow,
Yep.
and they are not part of that workflow at all.
Correct.
And then more times than not, what happens with that videographer or that team of videographers is they're there because there are outlets that used to be either digital or print that don't have a staff of videographers, so they are the ones that are the first people to use that videographer.
Exactly.
So
and we know people who do this.
I have spent countless programs waiting for videographers who are working with non-video people, and there's nothing wrong with non-video people, but it's not their skill set.
No, so it usually is a little bit slower, and they have to put things together, and it takes 3 times as long as it takes us.
And mostly when I see that now, I'll just do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't rely on that person. Not that they're bad, but just because of timing or because of workflow,
Right.
they just don't, or because we pride ourselves, we said that, right? You saw it first on TFL, right? We pride ourselves on putting our stuff up first, and if some other videographer is shooting it, I don't have access to that. Or they shoot it in RAW, which then we have to go color correct, which
Right.
we also don't have time for. It's just that the whole myriad of technical reasons that does not work. And so I appreciate that you're thinking of us, but that solution is a non-starter.
It's a non-starter. And here's another bottom line for you guys out there, and I'm proud to say this. The guys at TFL, our little organization, we're the hardest working guys you're going to find at any event. We will be there. We're not going to screw around and hobnob. We're going to go out there and we're going to shoot the car, learn everything we can about it, and get as much information as we can to you guys. That's how we work, and that's how we've always worked, and everybody knows it. Our competitors know it, and it makes them afraid. I kid you not. And at the same time, automakers know this. So by not giving us the tools to do what we need to do, frankly speaking, it kneecaps us, and at the same time, you're not looking any better by us doing a crap video. So that's kind of it.
And for all of you people who are still hanging out who aren't PR people, you may be thinking to yourself, well, if they don't invite a videographer, why don't you just bring one? But it doesn't work that way.
No,
you
it
can't.
doesn't.
You can't bring a person.
If they didn't invite the person, then you can't bring the person. Like, hey, oh, by the way,
by
I
the way,
forgot to mention.
Here's Cole, our videographer. We just happen to bring him.
Yeah.
You can't. It's like a private party. You have to have an invite for that person. You can't just. It's not the money. We would definitely pay to fly that person out and put them up at a hotel, but we can't. It doesn't.
Right. The invite has to be there. And in many cases, when you go to these events, they'll actually sign you in at the door. And if you bring in, I forgot to mention, I got this guy here. That guy's not coming in.
No.
Bottom line.
No. All right. So if you're not a PR person in the automotive world and you're still hanging out with us, thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Now you got
guys.
some inside baseball on this.
You got some inside baseball for all you PR people. You always ask me what, they send us like surveys.
Oh, yeah.
Here's your survey.
What can we do to make it better? Guess what?
We just did it for you.
Yeah, we're done.
We're done. So thank you for hanging out with us for this long. And remember, if you want to see all of our coverage, go to alltfl.com.
That's right, guys. Have a wonderful week. Be careful. We'll see you next time.
Ciao.